I booked over $250,000 in new client projects in just 90 days. But the strangest part, it happened before I changed my brand, before I redesigned my website, before I updated my photos, before I touched a single visual element. Because the transformation that changed my business wasn't visible, it was internal. So in this video, I'm sharing the identity shift that changed everything and the framework I now use with every luxury branding client to create premium positioning from the inside out. If you're new here, I'm Mariah. I'm an award-winning luxury brand designer, strategist, and certified life coach. For more than a decade, I've helped ambitious women go from overlooked to unforgettable, building brands that command attention, attract high-ticket clients, and create opportunities they once thought were out of reach. But what I've learned after hundreds of client transformations is this: the biggest breakthroughs rarely start with a logo. They start with identity. So if you're building a coaching, consulting, or thought leadership business, and you're ready to become the most sought after option in your industry, hit subscribe, because on this channel, we talk about the psychology, strategy, and branding required to create extraordinary results. Now, let me show you exactly how I created my own identity shift that got me booked out with clients paying $35,000 or more to work with me. The Identity First framework, why most rebrands fail. I've been a luxury brand designer for over a decade, and in that time, I have watched brilliant, talented, deeply qualified coaches and consultants make the same expensive mistake over and over again. They brand or rebrand backwards. They start with the logo. They start with the color palette. They invest in a beautiful new website. And then 6 months and tens of thousands of dollars later, nothing has changed. The clients aren't better. The rates aren't higher. The confidence isn't there. And then they come to me wondering why. The answer is always the same. Design without identity is decoration. It is expensive wallpaper on a crumbling foundation. Over the last decade, working with hundreds of women building premium service businesses, I've developed a framework that explains exactly why some brands command premium prices and why others, even beautifully designed, don't. Identity first, strategy second, design third. That order is not negotiable. Because when you build it backwards, visuals first, identity last, or usually identity not at all, you are solving the wrong problem. You are redesigning the packaging on a message that hasn't changed. The business hasn't changed. The woman running it didn't change. I know this framework because I've lived on the wrong side of it for years, and I want to walk you through exactly what it took to cross to the other side. The identity ceiling that looked like a pricing problem. I want to take you back to a version of me that no longer exists. I had been running my luxury branding agency for years. I had an award-winning portfolio. I had clients I loved who loved what I created for them. By every external measure, I was succeeding. But I had a ceiling I couldn't break through. I was charging $3,500 for comprehensive luxury brand packages, full brand systems and websites, the whole package. Work that, looking back with clear eyes, should have commanded 10 times that amount. My clients were paying it. They were grateful. They were getting results that transformed their businesses. And yet there was this voice. You might know this voice. It runs quietly in the background. It sounds like practicality. It sounds like market research. It sounds like that's what the industry charges. That's what they'll pay. Don't push it. That voice was not market data. That voice was my identity. I had unconsciously set a price ceiling that was a perfect reflection of what I believed I was worth, not what I was capable of delivering. I knew what I was capable of. but what I believed in my bones I deserved to receive. And here's the thing that took me years to understand. Your clients feel that. They feel the uncertainty you hold in your number. They feel the apology in how you present your offer. They feel the hesitation in how you occupy your space. It broadcasts a signal that says, I'm not quite sure I'm worth this either. I was doing extraordinary work for people. I was changing how they showed up in the world. I was transforming their ability to attract premium clients for them, but I hadn't done it for myself yet. Now, I want to be honest with you. I wasn't struggling. I was building something real, but there was this low-grade friction, this constant feeling that I was pouring everything into my craft, and the return wasn't matching the investment of myself, of my time, of my expertise. I think you know exactly what I'm describing. You're talented, you're credentialed, you're getting results for your clients, but something isn't translating. The clients you're attracting aren't the ones you want. Your rates feel like they're always slightly up for negotiation, and you keep circling back to the same question. Maybe if I updated my website, maybe if I refined my offer, maybe if I just got clearer on my niche. That is not a strategy problem. That is an identity problem. And the solution to an identity problem is not a new color palette. How betting $25,000 on myself changed everything. A few years ago, I made the most terrifying decision of my professional life. I signed up for a life coaching certification program. I want to pause here because I know what some of you might be thinking. A branding expert becoming a life coach? But stick with me, because this is not a pivot story. This is the story of what happens when you invest in understanding the psychology underneath your own work. And it came at a price, $25,000 paid in full, which was every dollar of savings in my business account. Let me make sure you're tracking what this moment actually looked like. I had no new projects signed. Nothing confirmed in the pipeline. I had arranged for my parents to fly out and care for my young children, including my 1-year-old, for an entire week. I was going to be physically away from my babies. I was going to be away from my business. I was spending every dollar I had saved. Every practical voice in my head said no. You don't have the safety net. You don't have the clients lined up. This is not the right time. Wait until you have more momentum. Wait until it makes financial sense. But underneath all of that noise, underneath every rational argument against it, there was something else, something quieter, a deep inner knowing, not a want, a knowing. I knew I was meant to be in that room. I have learned over time to trust that voice above all others, because that voice is not coming from your fear. It's coming from the version of you that already knows what's possible on the other side. So I moved mountains. I called my parents. I blocked the calendar. I arranged everything that needed to be arranged, and I paid in full. The manifestation principle that explains the $35,000 client. Now, what I'm about to tell you is going to sound a little woo-woo, but stick with me. Within 2 weeks of signing up, before the certification had even started, I signed a $35,000 client. I want you to sit with that. I had spent years believing my ceiling was $3,500. I had spent years operating from the identity of someone who charges $3,500 and only slowly increased it over time. But within 2 weeks of making a $25,000 investment in my own transformation, before I'd learned a single coaching framework, before anything had technically changed, a client just appeared and paid me $35,000. The universe doesn't reward waiting. It rewards conviction. Here's what I've come to believe about that moment. The act of betting on myself sent a signal, not just outward into the world, though I do believe that too. It sent a signal inward to me. It said, your knowledge is worth investing in. Your transformation is worth $25,000. You are the asset. And the moment I believed that, the moment I embodied it, rather than just intellectually agreed with it, the right client arrived to confirm it. My manifestation coach shared something with me recently that I want you to write down. Seeing isn't believing. Believe it first, then you'll see it. We have been conditioned our entire lives to require evidence before we expand. We need the clients before we really put ourselves out there. We need the testimonials before we charge premium prices. We need the revenue before we invest in our big vision. And here's what I really need you to know. That sequence is completely backwards. The evidence follows the belief every single time. I'm not speaking philosophically. I'm telling you what happened to me, and I can show you the receipts. What a Superbloom looks like in business, $25,000 in 90 days. That certification was one of the most transformative experiences of my entire life. I documented the entire journey, and I'll link the vlog series down below if you want to check it out. But what I want to share with you now is what came after. I turned 40 that year and I made a declaration. I wasn't going to mark this decade quietly. I wasn't going to let 40 be a number I simply arrived at. I was going to choose it deliberately and expansively. I called it my Superbloom year. Do you know what a Superbloom is? It's a phenomenon that happens in the desert. Under normal conditions, wildflower seeds sit dormant in the soil for years, decades sometimes, just waiting. And then when the conditions are finally right, the right rain, the right temperature, millions of flowers bloom simultaneously. The entire landscape transforms overnight. I had been accumulating seeds for a long time. The expertise, the craft, the experience, the decade of work. But something had been dormant. That year, it all bloomed. In the 90-day period following my certification, I booked over $250,000 in new client projects. I made 2.5 times more money in that 90-day period than I made the entire previous year. I became my family's primary breadwinner. I structured my business around a 3-day work week. Not because I worked less, but because I charged more, because I delivered more, because I finally completely believed I was worth more. And I need to be crystal clear about something. The $250,000 was not the transformation. The transformation was the identity shift that made that possible. Because here's what I know from the inside of this experience. The results didn't arrive, and then I finally believed I was worth it. The belief arrived first, and the results followed, almost as if they'd been waiting for permission. That's what a rebrand actually is. It's not a new logo. It's a new identity built from the inside out. Identity shift, brand strategy, and visual design. The framework applied to your business. Now, let's bring this back to you because a story without application is just entertainment. And I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to actually help you change your business and your life. Here is the framework that underlies everything I do with my clients. And as you've just heard, it's also the framework that transformed my own life. Identity first, strategy second, design third. Identity is the foundation. It's not your bio, your niche statement, or your elevator pitch. It's the internal architecture of how you see yourself in relationship to your work and the clients you serve. It's the answer to who do I actually believe I am in this industry? What do I genuinely believe I'm worth? When your identity is aligned, when there is no gap between who you claim to be and who you know yourself to be, everything flows. Your pricing feels natural. Your boundaries feel easy. Your content attracts the right clients because it's broadcasting the right signal. Confidence is not something you perform. It's something you carry. When your identity is misaligned, when you're operating from an older, smaller version of yourself, no strategy will close that gap. No design, no matter how gorgeous it is, will hide it. Your clients can feel it. The right clients, the ones you actually want to work with, will not invest at the level you want them to if your brand is broadcasting a mid-level signal. Strategy is the second layer. This is how identity translates into market positioning. Your offer architecture, your pricing, your client experience, your content. Strategy is the bridge between who you are and how you show up in the marketplace. Most people skip right to strategy. They want the funnel, the formula, the content plan. And then they get frustrated when it doesn't convert. It won't convert, not without identity underneath it. Design, your visual brand, your aesthetic, your brand identity system is the third layer. It's the articulation of everything that came before it. When your identity is clear and your strategy is aligned, the right visual language becomes almost inevitable. Design becomes the celebration of a brand who already knows who it is. Design matters enormously. It is the language your brand speaks before you say a single word. But design without identity is a costume. Most people think a rebrand changes your business. It doesn't. A rebrand only amplifies who you already believe you are. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Not what does your brand look like, but who do you need to become to command the price you want to charge? That's not a design question. That is an identity decision. And that is where every single transformation begins. How to start your own identity rebrand today. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself somewhere in this story, if there's a gap between what you're charging and what you know on some level you should be charging, if there's a distance between how you present yourself publicly and how you actually see yourself privately, I want you to know that gap is closable. It's not a talent problem. It's not a design problem. It's not even a strategy problem. It is an identity problem. And identity problems have identity solutions. The place I start with every client is an honest audit of where their brand actually stands today. Not what it intends to say. What is it actually broadcasting? Not the vision, the signal. Because you cannot become the premium option in your industry while broadcasting a mid-level signal. The two are incompatible. I've linked my luxury brand audit below. It's where most of my highest level client relationships begin. And it is the clearest, fastest way I know to show you exactly where your brand identity and your visual brand are aligned and where they're working against you. The rebrand that changed my life did not start with a new logo. It started with a decision to bet on myself before the evidence arrived, to invest in my own transformation before the results confirmed it was worth it, to believe in the version of me that didn't exist yet and trust she was on her way. The evidence always follows the belief, always. So if you're ready to bet on yourself, click that link below and sign up for a complimentary luxury brand audit. I cannot wait to meet you.